Hi, Steve Hayes here. I want to talk in this blog about the issue of autonomy and its relationship to values. I want to summarize a new study that I think is pretty cool. And maybe talk just a little bit about a place that we sometimes don't look when we're trying to find more flexibility with our thoughts and our feelings, with our sense of self, our attention. So let's get started. In the blog that comes with this session 3 of maybe a podcast, talk a bit about how to find your values or choose your values and why that really matters, and also why that's hard, the link between vulnerability that you feel when you know that you care about something, but also the vitality that you can feel and be uplifted by if you are willing to open up to that sense of vulnerability and that history, including past pain, rejection, things of that kind, and to make values-based choices, and then to put your feet behind them. But that issue of autonomy can sometimes be a little difficult for people. It sounds like it comes out of the sky, or we're talking about a homunculus within, or some sort of magical mystery, ghosty thing. And it's not like that at all. What we mean by choice is taking the responsibility in the sense of affirming your ability to respond, to be able to orient towards what's positively important, what's repetitively important, when it's simply choosing among alternatives because somebody told you should, or because otherwise you feel guilty, or because you have a sense of obligation, or because, mama wants you to, or whatever. Skinner actually, a behaviorist, so I got to do a little Skinner quote, talked about freedom as freedom from aversive control, of being able to do things out of positive motives. And that's very much what we're talking to, along with this quality of letting go of the dictator within, the set of rules that come, often backed up by aversives that are constantly telling you that you have to. You resent that. Even little kids resent it. So you don't have to believe that you're angels dancing on the head of a pin to care about autonomy. We're talking about the capacity of you to live a life that has a direction that resonates with you, with your history, with your background, by choice, simply selecting among alternatives that are backed up by the qualities, the positive features intrinsic to the behaviors that you choose on your own terms, for your own reasons, between yourself and the person in the mirror. And so in the written blog, I cover a few of those things. Some of these are linked to the WHO protocol. We're walking through that protocol roughly. We're not trying to just repeat or put out loud that work. That protocol was largely developed by Russ Harris. It's a very good protocols, but I'm not trying to, simply be a mouthpiece for it. I'm trying to orient people towards the issues that are in it. And there's a link here that you can go and look at what's there in the WHO protocol, which is really cool. Free, available in 21 languages. You can give it to your friends, etc. And we know that it's helpful. The new study that I said I'd talk about is kind of a cool study that came out of Andrew Gloucester's lab, and some of the people who work with him. And Andrew is the president-elect of ACBS and a good friend. And Marcia Renner, Elisa Haller, and Andrea Meyer, along with Andrew, are on this study that has just come out in the Journal of Contextual Behavioral Science, the main journal of ACBS, the Association for contextual behavioral science. It comes free with membership, by the way. If you're not an ACBS member, consider being it. Dues are low and values-based. It's the only organization that does this. You pay what you think it's worth based on your ability to pay. And as long as it's at least $12, much of which goes to Elsevier for this journal. As long as it's at least that, your dues will be taken. If even that's too harsh, email the association, and there's a number of scholarships for people who are really challenged by dues even at that level. But in this new article in JCBS, what they did, it was part of a randomized trial, but I'm focusing here, as the article did, on the experience sampling method of being repeatedly asking people what's going on, and then looking how things transitioned out within trajectories within the persons they're dealing with, 180 couples who were rating whether or not they had done something pro-social during these repeated assessment intervals, what their well-being was, how close they felt to the person that they did something pro-social for, and whether or not they did it out of obligation or did it as a free choice, as a positive, up to you, ability to respond choice. And I think the results are fascinating. If we just look at what happens to you in terms of well-being, doing things that are pro-social had pretty small effect. Whether or not the things you did that were pro-social were somebody who was close to you or not had a small effect. But then it comes to why. What's the function? What's it in the service of? And there it had an effect, and it went in two different directions. If you were doing pro-social things out of a sense of obligation, your well-being went down. If you were doing pro-social things out of a sense of choice, your well-being went up. And we can put this in values terms. Values-based choices matter. They lift you up, they carry you forward. Doing things out of the wagging finger of shame and blame just push you down. It looks like values, it looks like caring, it looks like purpose, it looks like importance, but it just pushes you down. And so how about enough of that? How about if you trust yourself that the things that are of importance, that are followed through of, and that are pro-social towards the people that you love, are worthy of your attention? Scary though that is. I've sometimes had clients say, well, what if I'm a psychopath? What if I'm no good? What if I'm evil? I usually secretly think, I've worked with psychopaths, I've worked with a lot of criminals, I've worked with rapists and murderers, and they don't ask that question. The very fact that you're concerned about it tells me, okay, time's up. How about if you trust yourself? And let's see if there's enough love in the world when we are who we hope to be, who we dream to be, the person in that you yearn to be. Who knows? Let's see. Is there enough love in the world that we can get out of our own way that we will actually make a difference? I promised that I'd talk just a little bit about another topic, and I'm just going to touch on it. And here's the topic I wanted to point to. Sometimes in these various psychological flexibility processes, we have this idea that you have to go quickly and do the accepting thing, or choose the value, or show up in consciousness, or let go of entanglement. And I'm suspicious of that. We just talked about values. At that kind of do it quickly, the thing feels a lot to me like wagging fingers again. So if we're going to go in this other place, in this kinder place, see if this helps. There's a space in which peace resides, in which you go beyond what your mind knows how to do, the analytical, judgmental, problem-solving mode of mind. It's a place that has silence in it. It has openness in it. I'm going to say a word. It's going to seem weird to you, but it has nothing in it. It has the no thing quality of not having edges and boundaries. And so here's one. Somebody emailed me recently and asked about sleep, and I posted this or responded in this way. This is a way of, in one area, fusion, chatter, finding the nothing. What I'd like you to do is simply sit in silence and watch your thoughts. Watch them rise and fall. You can do it right now if you wish. You can, simplest instructions, you can do it after this brief audiovisual ends. And now what I want you to orient towards is the experienced fact that there's a space in between your thoughts. You're thinking something, and then for a little while, there's nothing. And then thought arises again. And so what I want you to focus on now, a little different than what you just did, is focus on the space in between the thoughts, not on the thoughts. Notice that they rise, notice that they fall, but notice that only so that you can notice the space between them. Be quiet just for a few seconds and see if you can catch one. Another thing I'd like to suggest is that you playfully, without a whole lot of chatter, because guess what? The chatter is thoughts. You can't do this through the chatterbox. Silence won't be found there. What I'd like to suggest is that you simply see if you can slightly lengthen the space. I mentioned that this might be helpful to sleep. I've been doing this for some time myself, and I find that if I can simply do nothing for a very short period of time, my sense is it's less than a minute. A little hard to know for reasons that'll be obvious. I go to sleep. I mean, I'm not going to wake up. I mean, grooving these kind of habits in such a way that even when you're not conscious, it's still serving you. That takes a little more practice, but play around with it. See if you can find that flat spot. I did a podcast today with Diana Hill, which will be posted in a few months, I think, and I was talking about this flat spot and how many places that it applies. See if you can find that flat spot and kind of just let it ride. Not through a rule, not through chatter, because that's immediately a thought. Just let it ride. Settle into the nothing. The no thing, no edges, no, just, and see what happens. In future videos, I'll walk that out with some of the other psychological flexibility processes. You might see a relevance to the values piece. And even as you read the blog that comes with this, when there's a list of possible values you may choose, it's something, try to put yourself in a space where you're settling into the nothing, the silence, the space, Nothing sounds like a judgment. It's not. It's the no thingness, the smooth, flat spotness, making up words, that gives you a ground from which peace of mind is possible. And I won't completely make the links here, but you may see it yourself. And autonomous choices, purpose, positively driven out of your free choice. Values like that, the place from which that's possible as well. I hope this has served you, and I'll see you in a future newsletter.